You're watching The Legal Breakdown. Glenn, the eyes of the nation are on one case in particular. That's where Donald Trump deported a bunch of accused Venezuelan gang members to El Salvador. The Trump administration has asked the judge in this case, Judge Boasberg, who they've been attacking relentlessly, if he would vacate his temporary restraining order blocking these deportations. We now have a major update in this case that we've been looking forward to. Can you explain what just happened?
Yeah, Brian, Judge Boasberg just handed down a 37-page opinion that, in substance, tells Donald Trump and his DOJ lawyers not just no, but oh, hell no. I'm not going to reverse and throw out my prior ruling, my temporary restraining order, saying essentially, y'all are clearly violating the Constitution. And Brian, I urge our readers to read at least the first few pages. What I will say is the federal court judges are doing a really good job these days of distilling for the layperson. You don't have to be a lawyer, and why would you want to? Distilling for the layperson exactly what's going on in literally the first 2 or 3 or 4-page summary. So I urge everybody to read Judge Boasberg's brand new ruling because, it's clear that Donald Trump's lawyers are so outclassed and outmatched. It's like they haven't even read constitutional law for dummies. And the reason I say that, Brian, is because what Donald Trump did is he tried to take a law from the 1700s, the Alien Enemies Act of 1798. He tried to use it as a proclamation that basically he does not have to abide by or respect anybody's constitutional rights. If he calls you a foreign gang member, then damn it, you're a foreign gang member, and he can have his thugs deport you with any of the due process protections that the Supreme Court has ruled these folks deserve. So here's what I want to do. I want to read just a little bit of this old law, the Alien Enemies Act, just about a sentence or two to highlight why Donald Trump is essentially acting lawlessly and unconstitutionally. This is set out in the first couple of pages of Judge Boasberg's opinion. The Alien Enemies Act says that whenever there is a declared war, I think that's problem number one, because guess what? We are not in a declared war with Venezuela. Whenever there is a declared war between the United States and any foreign nation or government, or any invasion or predatory incursion is perpetrated, attempted, or threatened against the territory of the United States by any foreign nation or government. That's problem number two, Brian. 1, ain't no declared war. 2, ain't no invasion by a foreign government. But if you do have those two things, then the president can make a proclamation and all natives, citizens, denizens, or subjects of the foreign nation, the hostile government, who are of the age of 14 years or upward or older, and who shall be in the United States and not actually naturalized, shall be liable to be apprehended, restrained, secured, and removed as an alien enemy. Brian, it doesn't take a lawyer to see that none of those conditions in that old law from the 1700s are satisfied by the evidence that we all know exists. So, that's why Judge Boasberg laid it out in 37 pages, and he said, there is virtually no chance that Donald Trump's administration, Department of Justice, wins on the merits of this litigation. The plaintiffs are almost certain to win. And when that is the case, Brian, that's when a temporary restraining order is appropriate, indeed required, to freeze the status quo, stop illegally grabbing up and sending people out of the country by fiat, give them the due process rights they're entitled to. And that's what Judge Boasberg did. He did it in the first instance, and today he said, and I'm not undoing it. You just go ahead and take your appeal.
So clearly, there is a basis for what Judge Boasberg is doing, and there's no basis for what the Trump team is doing by trying to invoke a law on which there is no evidence to support any of the tenets of this law. But that hasn't stopped the Republicans from barreling ahead and framing themselves as the victims here at the hands of what they're trying to claim as an activist judge. Jim Jordan just said on Fox News today that hearings against James Boasberg will begin next week. And so what do you make of the fact that really what they're trying to do is vilify a judge for the crime of following the law?
It is lawless. It's undemocratic. It is dictatorial. When a judge forces the executive branch of our federal government to abide by the Constitution and the law, and the response from the aggrieved party, the Republican Party as well, then let's just get rid of the judge. That's like saying, you know what, we want to step out on a football field, but if the ref ever throws a penalty flag because we did something in violation of the rules, you got to get rid of the ref. Not you have to begin complying with the rules. If the Republican Party is a victim of anything, they are a victim of being required to abide by the law and the Constitution. And frankly, I don't call that victimization.
So, Glenn, I'm not sure if you've seen all of the photos of some of the folks that were apprehended and sent to El Salvador, but here's a tweet from Tim Miller depicting just one person that the Trump administration is claiming is a part of Tren de Aragua. He is a gay barber and makeup artist. Not to judge a book by its cover, but this doesn't exactly strike me as a hardened criminal, the guy sitting here with makeup brushes and literally smelling roses. Can I just have your reaction to the fact that someone like this was sent over to a hardened gang camp in El Salvador with zero due process, all because he committed the crime of having a tattoo?
Brian, it is the zero due process part that makes my blood boil. Now, let me fall back on my old career prosecutor instincts, because I've seen the reporting and the photographs, but the reporting of how family members of these folks who, I guess Marco Rubio decided on Donald Trump's behalf that, they're all a bunch of gang members. Let's deny them their constitutional due process rights, and let's just ship them off, not even to Venezuela, but to El Salvador, where, frankly, the El Salvadoran government is paying Donald Trump to house these folks. I smell a bit of a profit rat there. But in any event, let me fall back on my instincts, because I had suspects and defendants. I had some bad, dangerous folk often having their family members saying, no, our loved one didn't do these crimes, did nothing wrong, is not a gang member. That accounts for something, but what I would need is some fair, accurate, reliable, independent evidence and information that supported the fact that, for example, these guys are not gang members. But Brian, all of that is beside the point, because this very discussion we're having, where these issues are supposed to be resolved? In a court of law, because the Supreme Court has said even these folks are entitled to a judicial determination that they are dangerous gang members before they can be deported. And Brian, even that, they can only be deported under another law, the Immigration and Nationality Act of 1952. That is fair game. But this, Alien Enemies Act of 1798 is simply not in play, not legally and not constitutionally. And let me answer one other refrain we hear from the right. Oh my goodness, the judge just wants murderers to run free in our country. Let me read from page 1 of Judge Boasberg's ruling, where he lays that bullshit to rest. He says that my order, I'm going to paraphrase a little bit. I'm sorry, this is on page 2 of his ruling. My order does not require the government, the Department of Justice, to release a single individual from custody. My order doesn't prevent the government from apprehending anyone pursuant to the just published proclamation of Donald Trump, nor does it prevent anyone from deporting folks, including these plaintiffs, through authorities other than the proclamation, such as the Immigration and Nationality Act of 1952. But the thing is, Donald Trump wants to avoid having judges make those determinations. Why? Well, because maybe these folks aren't members of a dangerous Venezuelan gang. But the point is, Donald Trump and his dirty DOJ lawyers are acting lawlessly. They're acting unconstitutionally. And when we emerge from this sort of dark period, the Trump-induced darkness, and we come back into the light of lawfulness and constitutionality by our government officials, I hope that we work overtime holding these government officials accountable for the egregious violations of the law and of the constitutional rights of folks that they are committing as we speak.
And finally, Glenn, let's finish off with this. If the Trump administration was so confident in what it's doing, why not just go through the regular channels that are prescribed by the law, knowing full well that they have nothing to worry about if they're telling the truth?
Easy answer to that one, Brian. Dictators don't have time for details, constitutional or otherwise. The fear and intimidation is the point, because Donald Trump hopes that, one, it will make him look like a strong man, and even more people or organizations or populations will be afraid to stand up to him and assert their rights. And, this is the eternal power grab day after day by Donald Trump, hoping that he can stamp out all lawful opposition to what he's trying to do. So you know what? Dictators and details, including constitutional rights, don't really mix.
Well, that couldn't have said it better myself. We will, of course, stay on top of this case. I know the Trump administration and their mouthpieces in the Republican Party and the media have all trained their ire on Judge Boasberg, again, for committing the cardinal sin of trying to uphold the law in the face of a Trump administration that has no desire to abide by the law. So we will continue to watch to see what Judge Boasberg does, what the appeals court does. I know that there is a hearing that's happening today.